Rob has nothing to do with graphics, and that's how the stream
You
starts.
guys are
It
gonna be like,
literally
what kind of
starts with
hardware are
us
you
yelling at
expecting?
you.
I'm like,
I'm more of a sound guy.
yeah, exactly. I'm a sound guy. When you ask me what a graphics card is, I don't.
What's the
know.
power of the sound waves in this system?
I love how the stream starts with us shouting at Rob.
Every time.
Every
That's
time.
okay.
Jeez.
We're just disciplining Rob.
Well, that's just who he is.
My computer can't handle any of the new gen stuff. It's literally, what is it? What was it again? Gateway 97, like a Pentium 2.0.
I'm pretty sure you're still using floppy disks.
Was it floppy? That's what it was. Floppy.
No, I'm saying the operator system's on a floppy disk.
Do you have a floppy disk, Rob?
I need to empty out I put cookies in there because they said you have to do that, but now I have to clear them. How do I get them out?
Get your cookies out of the computer right now.
They're melting inside.
Also, they're freshly baked cookies. Oh no.
Yeah, they were. Well, I guess.
I mean, if it's chocolate chip, the computer is gonna get a nice overclock.
Nice.
But if they're not chocolate chip, you just fried your whole motherboard, bro.
Well,
at least you need at least oatmeal raisins. At least.
Serious question though, like, will I be able to download like 100 gigabyte of RAM, like on my computer when it comes out?
Absolutely,
dude. When's your Type 5, bro? This is a real good stand-up set.
Listen, I'm trying.
I think the stream still hasn't showed up yet.
I'm glad, because this is all fucking tragic.
Yeah, they don't need to know about me downloading RAM, and then the virus destroyed my computer. They do not need to know that. And that did not happen.
Oh my god! All right, we're getting somewhere. It's starting to show up. People are starting to trickle in slowly. I don't know why YouTube does that. Yeah, no, just give it a second. YouTube takes a hot minute for it to like register that it exists. I think it's like a YouTube thing where it's confused on if it's real or not most of the time.
Oh, I'm here. I'm alive.
Are you live? You in the chat? You see it?
Yeah, I see myself now. I'm happy.
Hey, he sees himself. Wow.
I still can't.
I'm proud of you.
Dang.
I'm proud of you, Rob. Just so you know, we're always proud of you, man. Like, you know.
I don't skip the ads, by the way. I don't skip the ads.
Oh, bro, that's what I'm talking about.
I don't skip ads.
That's true. That's true support right there. No ad block or nothing.
No, wait.
Yeah, we love you, man. You know how it is.
Damn, bros.
Define ad block.
Oh no.
Blocking ads.
Define ad blocker. I'm afraid about that, man. Because, like, listen, a lot of people use ad blocker in spite of YouTube, but it actually hurts the creator. Like, yeah, YouTube gets a little bit of a cut, but, like, YouTube's got money. Like, even if you don't give them ad revenue, they don't care. But the creator is like, help me eat dinner. Help me.
Hey, that's why I got you. That's why I got you.
Well, much appreciated.
Don't worry about it.
Much appreciated. Because, you know, oh, they moved. Wow, YouTube moved the live button down. If you shop on Amazon,
you should use WikiBuy. It automatically compares
6
Amazon's
degrees.
prices
They
to
moved
other
it down a whole
sellers
6
and
degrees.
notifies you when there's a
That's
better
crazy.
deal.
That's it. Jesus.
WikiBuy.
Oh god. Sorry about that, folks. I had for some reason the volume was on the stream, so you're gonna get a little bit of an echo for a second there. So let that pass. Again, YouTube.
Don't panic.
This was almost as bad as when YouTube moved the chat, like the comments section, above recommended videos, and I was lost for like a solid 10 minutes. Like, where the hell do I comment on this video now?
Your eyes are like going cross and everything. It was great.
The best way I could put it was like getting my ankles broken in basketball. Like, that's really the best way I could put it because I was so confused, man. But now that we're up and running, y'all, let's go ahead and dive right into this because today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're not going to be talking about one specific game or one specific event. No, we're going to be talking about all the games, all the hardware, all the stuff. Feel me? Dude,
let's get jiggy with it.
That's honestly the best way I could put it is we're going to get jiggy with it. But okay, so as you can see, we got a little less panelists here than we normally have. We got DankVibez. DankVibez, how you doing?
As usual, pretty good, pretty dank.
Pretty dank. I love that. You're dank and you're vibing. I think that's a good combo, brother. Parody Paradise, how you doing, man?
Feeling good, man. Just bought a new T-shirt with a little teddy bear, and I'm wearing some Crocs. How you doing?
I don't know why I invited you. No, I'm just kidding.
Such a vivid picture.
I know.
I love this man. Parody Paradise, always bringing entertainment to the stream. He does this for his full-time YouTube career. So, go check this man out. His name, I mean, it's as accurate as you can get for this man. It really is. That's the only way I can put it. So now, next gen. Let's dive into this, okay? So today, Sony had their event. I don't know if either of you saw it. I think maybe it was just Starch and I that checked it out, and I'm not gonna lie, I was less than impressed. I'm excited for next gen. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited for all next gen, but what they showed today, I mean, they did admit it was going to be PlayStation 4 primarily. They did have a few PS5 titles in there. We finally got to see Godfall in all of its glory. People in the chat were dogging the graphics, though. I personally think they look great. But this is another problem that we saw with the Xbox event. People dogging graphics. This looks last gen. What is this? Is this next gen? I'm confused. I mean, I saw ray tracing in its full power there. So I'm glad that I actually saw a game with ray tracing being demonstrated in the actual gameplay. But there was a lot of people in the chat going L. That's like that new trend now. When the chat's not doing well or a stream's not doing well, they just say the L letter.
It's not F anymore? It's not F in the chat
They
anymore?
still do F a little bit, but they were doing, it was mainly.
It was a hard L.
Yeah, just capital L down the line. And I'm like, mostly an Xbox fan, don't get me wrong. I'm not like beyond biased, that incomprehensible when it comes to talking to me about anything PlayStation. But I do appreciate both consoles. And I was like even commenting like, this looks great. What do you mean? And everybody was just L, 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 L. So,
I actually had a PS3 for the majority of the whole Xbox 360 era. So, I mean, I was a pretty big fan of Sony for a while.
Yeah, I remember that. Actually, I remember when I first met you. You had a PlayStation 3 and you were rocking that. And I remember admiring the fact that I didn't have to pay for online back then, which was huge.
Well, I mean, it was a horrible service, but I mean, free nonetheless.
Good point. And like, I know their Xbox is actually rumored to be doing something very similar in the near future, making gold free. I don't know how you all feel about that. I mean, have you guys heard about this rumor yet?
I mean, I haven't heard anything about it. I'm trying to like wrap my head around why they possibly would do that. Only thing I could think of is like they have enough money. But I mean, the whole reason to pay for the services is to make sure the services are like properly taken care of, which was the problem with the whole free system in PlayStation. So,
and people are having that concern. If you hear any feedback, like all feedback and any feedback that I've been hearing about the whole Xbox Live thing going free, if it does go free, any negative that is if the service is going to be bad, and oh my God, look out for hackers. But Microsoft's not defunding their live servers in this process. Supposedly, they're going to earn their money back by, I mean, believe it or not, they actually lose a ton of money doing games for gold deal. I mean, every month they give you 3 games for free, and then they give you discounts on other games and other pieces of software. So not doing that is going to kind of counterbalance any loss there. And I do suspect that Game Pass will increase in price at least a little bit. Because right now it's an amazing value. You get Xbox Live for your Xbox. You get over 200 games for your Xbox that you can download and play whenever. And you get over 100 games for your PC at the same time. And all first-party exclusives and third-party partnership titles are going to be on there day one, saving you literally hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on how many games you play. For me personally, for my channel, that's going to save me thousands of dollars a year. And it's a phenomenal deal. So if they even increase that $5, $10,
absolutely.
you think that's a game changer?
They'll cover a lot of ground there.
Would you? So if they increased it $10, is that something you would you want to counter that? Is a $25 a month fee for Game Pass Ultimate a little too steep, even if they make Xbox Live go gold and they remove that paywall for multiplayer?
Here's the thing. Like I barely notice it now. I guess the paying for the whole online in general. So to me personally, I don't think it would really make a difference if they made it free or not and just kept doing what they were doing now. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Never see if it's broke, don't fix it. There's so many game companies I wish I could just grab by the neck and just, if it's broke, don't fix it, and just shake them around.
Stop fixing things.
Stop fixing things that aren't broken, you idiots. But we got Relock Plays in the chat. Buddy, how you doing? Nice to see you. Thanks for stopping by. We got well, okay, hold on.
We got Edgar.
Edgar, you simpleton. Hey, man. What's up, man? How you doing? I love some of
That's what
them,
they call me, the simpleton. I know that. I like that word.
Yeah, I'm
Great
definitely
work.
going to be getting a PS5 day one relock. Of course, just due to the nature of this channel, I got to get all the consoles. But I'm going to be, I think my multiplats, it depends, honestly. It really depends. We're going to have to see how things are when they start releasing. But I think I'm going to be between PC and Xbox, depending on the game, of course. There's some games I'd rather sit on a couch and play. But when it comes to, exclusives, I mean, and PS5's got games that Xbox and PC won't see. And as a result, it kind of leaves you no choice but to get one. But I'm definitely going to get both. I'm going to be enjoying both. The PS5, I cannot wait for The Last of Us 2 for PS5. Because, I mean, when I played the first Last of Us, and chat's going to kill me for it, I didn't play The Last of Us until they did the remaster version. When was it? A few years after.
In your defense, I remember when you were starting to play, you were very ashamed about how long it took you to play it. In your defense.
Yeah, because it was a game that captivated me so much, and I just fell in love with the story and the characters, and I was just like, well, damn me for figuring it out now. Well, a lot of people only buy one console. If you have a PC for third party, then PS5 makes more sense. Well, yeah, definitely. No, I think that's what Microsoft's actually trying to say here, and they've been getting a lot of flack for it. They're like, okay, so what's the point of an Xbox if you guys are just going to make everything for PC too? And that's kind of unknown. We'll have to see what they do in the future there. But that's exactly it. I mean, you got a really high, powerful rig right now, depending on its level of performance. Just play on PC, especially if you're 1080p. And this is a topic I definitely want to dive into as we get along here, because I think 4K, native 4K 60 is actually, frame rate's fine. But I think focusing on that 4K resolution, think about it. You can get the same levels of detail the next-gen Xbox will be able to provide to you with less hardware on a PC, because you're not hitting 4K on a PC. Look at the Steam. Yeah, it's completely fine. 1080p is more than fine. And you have, 1440p isn't that expensive anymore, and that is gorgeous. And if you look at the Steam survey, less than 2% of users on Steam have a 4K display of some kind, which is an astronomically low number compared to the 89% or 85% that have 1080p. So depending on, if they're really trying to focus on that 4K market, I get it that TVs and 4K resolutions are dropping, but still not everybody has one. And they're focusing so heavy on it. I mean, look at Halo Infinite footage on screen right now. I mean, some people say it looks great, and I'm not going to say it looks bad, but I'm not going to say it looks, I was expecting way more. I mean, this game isn't even going to launch with ray tracing day one. They need to delay it. Make this game wow people. This is your flagship. What else is coming out on launch?
This is what I'm concerned about. I don't want them to, the whole initial start of this console, this next gen, the whole selling it right off, it's got to go well right off the bat. I mean, if they sell this and all of a sudden people aren't happy with the product they bought when it was supposed to be this new revolutionary next step kind of thing, it's going to hurt them real bad.
It's going to hurt them very bad. I mean, Relock isn't the only person saying all this. There's a lot of people out there that's saying all of the same stuff. And I feel like Microsoft is definitely leaning towards providing as good a service as they can in tandem with as best of a hardware deal that they can. And because they own, they own Windows, they make Windows. So they kind of are like, hey, if you don't get Xbox, whatever, we still are part of Windows. We still sell our games on Steam. Game Pass is still for PC. They're kind of doing a whatever approach. I don't know how I feel about it. A lot of people are giving them flack because it's I'm an Xbox fan. Provide the best out of Xbox and don't carry the two into each other. But like I said, nothing's out yet. Sony is clearly trying. Man, they're trying so hard. Every single.
Well, what I can say about Sony is at least they're putting. I feel like they're putting more heart in it. They have their design, they have their own thing, and it's kind of like the way we were just describing. It sounds like Microsoft does have this whatever lackadaisical kind of view on it.
Yeah, they're just chilling. They're just chilling. I feel like, how do you put it? They got their heads up in the clouds right now, sitting pretty. They know they have the finances to make whatever they want and buy these studios and give them financial freedom to create whatever games they want. And, they think just because the number of exclusives they have is higher, that they sit in a better position. But it's all about quality, not quantity at the end of the day. I think, Nintendo this year kind of proved that. They released one major game, and that was Animal Crossing. that game funded them for the whole year by itself. Animal Crossing has done phenomenal sales-wise. It's still trending to this day after release forever ago. But Benny, welcome to the chat, Benny. For those watching, the reason why our panel's so small, we did have some severe weather our way yesterday night, and a lot of people are still without power, so a lot of folks aren't going to make it to the stream, unfortunately. But we will miss them. They are here in spirit. Benny's here on his phone, I can tell. probably mobile. You don't have internet yet, I'm assuming, Benny, but Eversource better get on it, doggone it.
They're doing their best out here. It was some pretty crappy weather, so.
We're going to get our people in here for next week, though. This will be a lot different. 3 people on a panel is definitely not the same volume we normally have, so there's a lot of content just spaced between a few people. All lives matter, all hardware matter, equality. Yeah, that's right. I know who that is. We all know who that is. We're not going to say his name, but we all know who that is. That's our boy right there. But I'm just going to move on. So, like, when it comes to hardware, now tell the fanboys that, yeah, seriously, I can't. The fanboys are driving me crazy. Like, I'm going to have a PS5. I'm going to have an Xbox Series X. I'm going to have a computer. I'm going to have all these things. I keep saying it. It's a great time to be alive as a gamer. All right, like everybody should appreciate the effort being put into these things by all companies, and it forces competition, and competition forces value because at the
pressure
end of the
creates diamonds, my man. Pressure creates diamonds.
Exactly, and I couldn't appreciate Sony and Microsoft more for trying to do better this time as best they can. Because I think there's things about the PS5 that I'm thoroughly impressed about. There's things about the Series X that I'm thoroughly impressed about. And as a result, PC hardware that are going to be, big Navi coming out in a couple months, and the 30 series graphics cards coming out probably early next year, they got to be competitive as well. And I mean, we were just talking, playing on a 1080p screen requires a lot less power than playing on a 4K screen. So you might get a better looking game on a PC with less graphics power hitting 1080p than the Xbox Series X hitting 4K, just because of the delta. The requirement of performance there to hit those numbers of resolution is just so much higher. And as a result, you buy a big Navi card for like $500, and at 1080p, you're golden for like 4 years. Like you're straight. All those new features that they take advantage of, you'll be able to take advantage of. All those sweet graphics, ray tracing, all of that, you're going to easily handle that. I mean, the 30 series card's rumored to have up to 3 times the performance of ray tracing capability when it launches, and that's the biggest drawback of the RTX cards. You buy an RTX card, and unless you get the most expensive one, ray tracing kills your performance almost entirely. It might not even be worth it. PCs have gotten so much cheaper. Yeah, literally. I mean, hell, when they first came out, I remember I just bought a graphics card for a little less than what the Xbox One was when it came out. I think it was $499. I bought a graphics card for $399, and that thing was stronger than the Xbox by a large margin, like immediately. But I mean, this next phase we're going into is about hardware. So at this point in time, I'm just going to go down the very long list of panelists we got here. I don't know if we'll ever get through this. Woo! Way too many of you guys. So of the 2 platforms coming out, and of course the new PC hardware, I'm going to start with you, DankVibez. What are you most excited for? Or what platform are you most interested in, and do you think about when you think, I can't wait for upgrades?
Well, being that I just built my PC, I'm pretty hard stuck on, being obsessed over those parts for now. But if we're going to talk strictly next gen consoles, well, just performance wise, all the discussion I've had with you, everybody else in the chat, I mean, it just seems more powerful just by numbers. So I mean, all the stuff they're putting out, I'm trying not to sound as biased as possible.
It's hard sometimes.
Because there are a lot of things I'm super excited for. But I think the Xbox Series X is going to be some real next step kind of stuff, and I'm really excited to see what they can dish out with it. So I would say that's what's been on my mind mostly about it. I just with all the trailers and all that, man, it's like, oh, how does it not make your jaw drop to be a gamer nowadays?
There's so many oh, is the at thing broken? I'm not too sure what you're referring to, Ace. I'm sorry. Kind of new
also,
to that.
Thank you, Boss Mafu. It's a sick name.
YouTube streaming his ass. Yeah, that's for sure. We're learning as we go. This is the 3rd time we've done this, and every single time we've done it, something has happened. Something always happens. Every single time. Like
literally every time.
We pretty much expect something to happen at a certain point in time. But what is that? Boss Mafu, Boost Mafu. Sorry for screwing your name, man, but thank you for the donation. Much appreciated. $5. This keeps us honestly doing this kind of that kind of support. We weren't expecting it, nor were we asking for it, but it is surely appreciated, like you wouldn't believe. And when you try to add someone, it doesn't autofill. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. Sponsor it beforehand. Yeah, see, I tried Twitch. Not enough people move over from YouTube to Twitch. And for me, it's just easier to keep it all under one umbrella. But Maybe one day. We'll see how it goes. I mean, at this rate, YouTube with streaming is just, it's frustrating. DankVibez is actually, that's how he creates his content. He is just a streamer. And I'm sure he deals with a lot of headaches doing this. He's been doing it for about a week now. And I'm sure there's some things you could complain about.
Yeah, definitely for sure. But I always thought Twitch was like too saturated of a market. Sorry for my dog. I was like, I was just trying to try new things out. Yeah, definitely has its flaws, I would say.
A lot of exclusives because PS5. Thanks, Juice World, man.
Well,
man.
that's the most important part now, isn't it? As it is an audio medium.
So, in terms of exclusives for the PS5, so, I mean, it's hard to say because they've always done a really good job with exclusives. And I feel like even if the PS5 was stronger, they would just like kind of shove it in everyone's face more. Like, hey, our console's the most powerful and we got all these great games. But for now, I think they're using a lot of hardware and software implementations to kind of boost the delta between the two. And then they're like, and we got all these great games too on top of that. So regardless of what you see on paper, this is what our game looks like. And I mean, you can kind of see that in the stream with Ratchet and Clank. They're doing some sacrifices they're doing 30 frames per second. I'm going to be blunt. They already said the reason they did that is because they wanted insane amounts of particle effects and whatnot. That's why you see a crazy amount of scrap metal go flying everywhere when he starts blasting the robots. But the game looks beautiful for what it is. Like I was like, wow, okay, this is great. Like I love this. And you see the SSD technology with the rapid transition into different worlds. There's a little bit of a pause, but again, this game is not even out yet. So we'll see how that works. But I mean, there's a lot of things that we're talking about that's just being created through what is written on paper. These are all speculation based off of what's in black and white and what we've seen in gameplay, gameplay, air quotes, of all the events we've had so far. I will say Sony has impressed me the most when it comes to gameplay wise. What we've actually seen anyway. I just watched the PlayStation event over again today to get the footage that you see on the screen here. And I realized that there was things during the PlayStation event that I was like, wow, okay, let's go. And the Xbox event, I mean, they started with Halo, and I was just like, wait a minute, I'm about to cry. Not really. I was really excited. The gameplay looks solid, but there was graphical things like the pop-in and the soft textures and the draw distance issues. I was just very concerned, and we'll see what they can do in the next few months to improve that. Honestly, I don't think there's much they can do. 60 would be better, and I mean that's why Xbox is aiming for 60, Ace. But Sony is just, I mean, like we were bringing in, they have to do something different to stand out differently because there is a performance delta. We're about to dive into that. So if Sony tried to replicate the same resolution and frame rate, especially on multi-plat games that the Series X was trying to hit, you would see more obvious issues. I mean, people are going to notice 30 versus 60 right away. But if PS5 did the same game at hitting 60, you're going to notice most likely, and again, we got to wait. Digital Foundry is probably going to help us out a lot with this, but you're going to see games that hit native 4K on Series X or maybe have a little bit of checkerboard rendering, and you're going to see the PS5 maybe hit 1600p resolution with the same or different but similar methods of checkerboard rendering to try to hit that 4K resolution. And you'll notice more dips maybe with that lower fidelity on a PS5. But that's just kind of like how we see it. Relock, thanks for stopping by, man, as always. #1 supporter. Give this man love. He always stops by our streams.
Always love seeing you, dude. Always.
Always
you,
on
buddy.
every single video. Much appreciated, man. You have a great day. Stay safe out there. But we're just going to segue into our next part of the hardware. I'm actually going to bring up on screen here, so that way it's easier to reference. So these are the specs we're looking at for Series X, PlayStation 5, CPU, 8-core, 16-thread Zen 2, with the option of having simultaneous multi-threading turned on or off, which is interesting because when you turn it on, the frequency drops to 3.66 gigahertz, and when you turn it off, it stays at its 3.8 gigahertz original. Now, so what is simultaneous multi-threading? It's similar if you have an Intel processor. It's pretty. What is checkerboard? Okay, wait 1 second. Let me. So checkerboard rendering is essentially where the native resolution of the game isn't exactly 4K. So for example, I'll use the 1800p resolution as a standard again. And they use, and the reason they call it checkerboarding is because they replicate a pixel in a diagonal square shape method, and they do this overlaid until the image is filled into the native 4K. And it's very effective at not deducing any visual fidelity whatsoever, but you also don't have to use the hardware's brute force to pump out native 4K pixels. So you get a similar 4K image, better than upscaled from 1800p. So it's kind of in the middle from native, but better than upscaled. It meets you dead in the middle. There's a lot of videos that dive into that, but essentially it's like faking the resolution. I'm not going to dog it, though. It does work very well. A lot of the times you can't tell unless you do what Digital Foundry does and you just zoom right up in there and you really pay attention to per pixel. That's when you can notice it. But your average viewing distance on a TV, you wouldn't notice that typically. But CPU-wise, now, when it comes to the Series X, this is one thing that I found really interesting is because of the simultaneous multi-threading being able to be turned on or off. Now, a lot of games support less than 4 or 8 cores in total when it comes to optimizations. Now, on Xbox, even less than that. PS4, same thing, because they have 8 cores, no multi-threading, but 2 of those cores in each console are dedicated towards background tasks. So technically you only get 6 cores while gaming, no threads. Now, that being said, the Series X has an advantage there because 8 cores are currently the standard in a sense. And as a result, a lot of games being multi-generational, you know, Halo Infinite, tons of games are being made on the original Xbox in 2013 and also on this new Xbox coming out in just a few months. And as a result of that, there's less optimizations that need to be done because these games are going to use the same amount of cores for the most part as the older Xbox. And I mean, older Xbox holding back new generation, that's a completely different conversation, and we'll definitely go into that. But when it comes to the actual day one performance, this is going to help them keep that higher frame rate with less silly background issues that optimization negligence can cause that reduce performance than what you would imagine. Think PUBG, you know, game doesn't look fantastic, but it ran like crap. You know, there's just a lot of things in the background that you really couldn't do when it comes to graphical settings because the optimization was the problem. But that being said, with multi-threading, 16 threads essentially pretend each core, instead of having one arm, has 2 arms. So you're not 16 cores, you're 8 cores, but they're able to do multiple things at once. And that's where the word thread comes in. And over time, as developers learn how to use the new Xbox and the PlayStation for that matter, we're going to see a lot of improvements in games that we're not used to right now. And I mean, massive scale battles in games like Battlefield. There's some rumors going on about that, with Battlefield having literally hundreds of AI running in the background, actually dynamically fighting each other. And it's not just this stupid little dummy character 3D model that's got no intelligence, just running in a straight line, shooting randomly. Like, it's actual intelligent AI doing all of these complex maneuvers, and it's possible because you have 16 threads at such a high frequency. Right now we have 8 threads maximum in our 8 core consoles, and they're terrible frequency, 1.6 to 2.3 gigahertz depending on the specific one you're talking about, and the architecture is complete garbage. The Jaguar architecture from back in the day is, I mean, if you had an iPhone 6, that iPhone 6 had a better processor than the PS4 and the Xbox One, if that really puts it in perspective for you. Pretty terrible, but yeah, big oof. So, I mean, that's just you'll hear it from a lot of developers. You'll hear it from a lot of people higher up in Sony and in Microsoft. The biggest generational leap is going to be processor. And it is. There's some software features that are really going to help, but the CPUs being so much stronger, over 4 times stronger retrospectively for each console than previous generations, that we're going to see larger scales in games like open world RPGs, large scale battle. My small brain can't comprehend. Starch, you knock it off. You're one of the smartest people I know, damn it. And you're going to have a good time with this. I know you are. See, Starch is an RPG fan. The CPU being the way it is, people like Starch and I and you know, DankVibez who love RPGs, those games are going to be so much more of a larger scale, more breathable worlds. But what was your question, DankVibez?
Why now? You know, you were saying that like they took this gen to get so powerful. Why do you think it took them this long to realize that maybe the CPU was the part that needed to be upgraded?
So I feel like with each generation, this kind of happens. So with the Xbox 360 and the PS3, it was RAM. They both came with 512 megabytes of RAM, which to think about today is just insane how far we've come, but less than a gig of RAM each. And the PS3 had 256 gigs allocated for graphics and 256 gigs or megabytes, I'm sorry. See, that's how foreign it is. I'm not used to megabytes being in my vocabulary at all. So 256 towards video and 256 towards system. And of course, some of that reserved for the background operating system, not just the game. And the Xbox 360 had 512 dedicated for pretty much everything, and was allowed to be openly used by whatever task was needed. Now, the problem with that is for the PS3 side of things, if you needed video memory for higher resolution or more texture detail, you didn't have it. If you needed more system memory for larger background logic, and especially in open world games, that's particularly why Skyrim ran worse on the PS3 versus the Xbox 360, you didn't have it. On Xbox 360, you could balance it. You know, you need more system RAM, do something with the graphics to lower it. You need more graphics memory, do something with the background operating system and lower it. Like, you had the ability to flex, but you can only flex so far. And even in 2006, you know, when these consoles started coming out, that wasn't a crazy amount of RAM. I mean, computers were coming stock with 2 to 4 gigs then, on the gaming aspect of things. And to have a fraction of that, you know, with optimizations, they managed to last a while. And I mean, look at the 360 and the PS3 were selling up until 2013. So that's how long they lasted. We have games like Crysis on there and stuff. But ultimately, that was the bottleneck. So what did they do with the Xbox One and this PS4? They added a crap ton of RAM. They went from 512 megabytes both to having 8 gigabytes, which people were like, oh my God, 8 gigabytes? Like, what is this? What's the game being shown? This is called Returnal. Very interesting game. I need to find out more about it. They haven't said much about it, Ace. I really want to know more, though. It looks like the better version of what Microsoft was showing with, what was that game? Rob, Parody said it best. You're like a space janitor. You guys know what I'm talking about? You suck up the gunk. I think it's actually called gunk.
Oh, actually, gunk. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
It's like, that's like the PlayStation.
It looks so bad.
It's like the better spiritual version of that game, if you ask me. But, see, that's what I'm saying, though. Sony showed a little bit more gameplay, even though they had less games to show, and that's the problem with Microsoft, and we'll get into that. But yeah, so that was the big problem with the 360 and PS3 era. They didn't have enough RAM, so they fixed that problem with the Xbox One and the PS4. But now they ran into another problem. Back then, GPUs were doing a lot of compute tasks. So if a processor wanted to offload physics or some other type of technical workload to the GPU, they could use the GPU cores to complete these tasks and do more than just render what's on screen. So they wanted to keep the consoles affordable, and they gypped the CPU. They went with more cores to kind of divide the workload, but they trusted too much in that graphics technology being able to off-handle CPU-related tasks, which didn't work at all. They didn't even get very far with utilizing that technique, even in the PC world. And as a result, less than 2 years into the generation, and the processors immediately started holding back all of the games being released for both consoles. Even though the PS4 was about 50% more powerful graphically, it actually had a slightly weaker CPU than the Xbox One. So there were games with the Xbox One, although at a slightly lower resolution, played better than the PS4 because it was more CPU intensive. And I'm not saying that they ran it perfectly. I'm talking 27 frames per second versus 30. Like, it's a very subtle difference, but difference indeed. And that's the problem with last gen, because when they upgraded to the mid-tier consoles, you know, the Xbox One X, PS4 Pro, they didn't do much to increase the CPU power. They, of course, they upped the clock frequency. You know, Xbox One from 1.7 gigahertz to 2.3 in the One X, and the PS4 to 1.6 gigahertz to 2.1 in the PS4 Pro. But it's still the lame, very slow, terrible Jaguar architecture. And at the end of the day, your architecture is one of the biggest factors in performance, because you can be very limited by that. Even if you increase the frequency by double, you can still be very far held behind. How good are the GPUs when compared to desktop GPUs? Are you talking about the current gen, the Xbox One X and PS4 Pro, or the next gen, the Series X and the PS5? And I'll wait for you to reply back to that. But that was the biggest issue with CPU. So with this new generation, they fixed that. They went with a better CPU. So I feel like each generation, as they're moving along, they're like, oh crap, we messed up here. Now we got to do better in this category. So let's go ahead and do better. And sometimes I feel like they fall behind in a certain area. So for PS5 and Xbox Series X, it was said that on paper, the Series X is similar to a 2080. Digital Foundry covered this, and so did Austin Evans. But they played Gears of War, or Gears 5, I should say, on a PC running a 2080 Super and on an Xbox Series X. The Series X had about 2 weeks of optimizations, and both running at native 4K, aiming for 60 frames per second. The Series X had 50% more particles that weren't allowed in the PC version. The PC version didn't have this option of setting, and the Xbox Series X version played just as well as the 2080 Super computer. Now,
Wow.
yeah, so definitely a lot of, that's why, Xbox is doing a lot of great things when it comes to raw output, because 12.15 teraflops, I'm going to put the spec sheet up on screen again here, 12.15 teraflops of GPU power is nuts, especially when you add all of the other features. Like if you look at the bottom in the green area side of the little spec sheet I'll put up there, you get DirectX 12 Ultimate Mesh shaders, variable rate shading, direct machine learning, and about 13 teraflops of ray tracing capability, which is nuts. Like you add those features to the raw 12.15 teraflops of RDNA 2 horsepower, and this thing blows my mind. And that's why I'm so disappointed with the Xbox show, because I didn't see what I see on paper visually be shown to me in gameplay. Maybe that like 5 seconds of Avowed gameplay where they're staring at that cave and he's got his sword out and whatnot. That was the most graphically impressive thing I've seen on the Xbox Series X, and I need to see more of that, not just 5 seconds. I need to see like 5-10 minutes of that, because what I saw in that show was not vindicative. I mean, if I told you guys everything I was just saying, 2080 Super level of performance with a crazy ton of hardware software features in the background to make it even better, would you have believed that that was the Xbox Series X show that you watched that day?
Probably not, dude.
Definitely not. So disappointing.
Exactly, and that's why. Go ahead.
It's just the value. Like if it just all depends on the value, I guess. So like it's how much the Xbox is selling for. But if the Xbox can sell for a good enough price where that 2080 super relevant type power can coexist, that's where it really hits the money.
Exactly, and it's all about
That's
visual
what-
representation.
yeah.
Sell it. You were saying it in the last stream that we talked about it. Sell me it. Sell it to me. I want to see it, so sell it. And when they didn't show it, I mean, what you're seeing on the screen, I'm gonna minimize it just for a second. So this game, I mean, it's not like the most graphically demanding game I've ever seen, but it looks damn good, and that's on a console that's about 20% to 40%, or I wouldn't say 40, but about 20 to 35% slower than the Series X, depending on the variable frequency. Are the devs even taking advantage of it? See, that's the thing. Like, I don't think so. I don't think they are quite yet. I mean, we were just talking about it earlier. Halo Infinite is launching without ray tracing. That's a huge deal. I guarantee you, ray tracing is such a game changer. If that trailer had ray tracing activated throughout that whole, 12, 15 minutes they showed us, people would have had a lot less negative feedback for it. I would have been impressed. Ray tracing, immediately you flick the switch, and it's like, look at Minecraft when they did it. And that's an actual game. Minecraft will have ray tracing on Series X. It's a game changer. Lighting and all those things, those properties are manipulated in such a way where, it's just realistic. They use it for CGI, and now it's in an interactive entertainment form. Like, it's a big deal.
You remember growing up when you ever got the new game, if you say the original Xbox, and you would always check the lighting in the water. I mean, I guess that maybe that was just me, but the lighting in the water
Far
was
Cry.
always the first thing I would check to know if this game has the graphics. And that's what ray tracing is going to be able to do for me. And it's going to it's so cool to see.
Ray tracing is such a big game changer for water effects, especially, not just lighting, shadows, and sound. You hit it right on the head, because I used to do the same damn thing. Like when Far Cry Instincts came out for the first Xbox, back in 2004, I freaked out because there was a little bit of a wave effect.
God,
I never
game
saw.
was awesome.
You remember that game? That game looked gorgeous, and I mean, to today's standard, it
So
looks
nice.
terrible. But back then, man, and it was the water. It was a tropical island. The water alone blew me. I would just hang out in the water. Maybe I was a loser. I don't know, but I would just chill in the water.
What if I play devil's advocate here and say maybe the devs are learning as well as we are? Maybe they're not all knowing just yet. Maybe they're trying to figure out how to take advantage of it, and maybe I guess our feedback is really going to help them in the process.
Well, that is true. You are right about that. So of course, and especially with this generation, developers got dev kits real late, I should say. The PS5 got dev kits the earliest, and it was rumored that the PS5 was actually going to launch their console earlier this year, and announce it last year. But when rumor got thrown around that the Series X was as powerful as it was, Sony actually halted the brakes and had to do some touching up. And I mean, I was going to dive into that in the GPU section for the PS5. I haven't even touched up on the CPU or anything, so I'll segue real quick and just say the PS5 was originally a 9.2 teraflop GPU. So even more of a performance delta than the 10.28 that you see on paper here. But the problem was when Series X was rumored to have 12, they were like, wait a minute, that's way too big of a gap. Like they might have more advanced ray tracing. They might have some more advanced features. If they have a better CPU and better RAM, if our GPU is that lacking, it's going to be a night and day difference. Like, why bother? If you're a multi-plat player and not exclusive only, why bother? It's going to be really hard to sell beyond exclusives. And I mean, they'll always have a strong exclusive game, so I'm sure they weren't worried about that. But if you do the math, the original rumored frequency of the PS5 GPU with its CU count that it has, which is 36, the number equals exactly 9.2 teraflops when you do the math. And when it's a 2.23 gigahertz frequency for the CPU or the GPU core on that thing, which is astronomically high. To be over 2 gigahertz is just unheard of. So to have a 2.23 gigahertz GPU, insanely high. And I think that's exactly, a lot of people are saying that's what they did. They overclocked the hell out of the GPU in order to kind of narrow that gap a little bit. And as a result, that's why you'll notice on screen under CPU and GPU, there's a variable frequency for both. And I'll dive into that now. So essentially, the CPU cannot be 3.5 gigahertz and the GPU cannot be at 2.23 gigahertz at the same time. It's called smart shift. So what it does is, let's say that a game is more CPU intensive, the game will hit that 3.4, 3.5 gigahertz range, but the GPU has to drop down to 10.1, 10.0 teraflops. So you lose GPU performance to get more CPU performance, and it works in vice versa. You need more graphics power, well, your CPU is going to struggle. So multi-plat games that have a lot of CPU intense, workloads, open world games, the next Battlefield, the next Battlefront, like there's a lot of games you could dive into on it. You're going to see performance gaps of some form, if not visual gaps in some form, guaranteed, whether it's resolution, whether it's details, whether it's the frame rate. You're going to see some sort of a difference because that gap is best case scenario that you see on paper here. That's the best. The Xbox is always solid. It never changes its frequency. Nothing ever moves around, whether it's, it's either 8 cores, 16 threads, or just 8 cores, 8 threads. That's the only difference between the two. But if you notice, with simultaneous multi-threading, the Series X still has a 0.16 gigahertz faster CPU than the PlayStation 5 at best case scenario. So that's a lot of people don't think about that. A lot of people don't even talk about that. Besides people who know hardware, that's huge. At best, at the very best, the PS5 is still a little bit of a delta in performance that will be noticeable in multiplats. I mean,
just be that way. And there's that war.
So the SSD, I'm actually I'll skip the RAM just because you asked that, and I'm gonna dive into that. 825 gigabytes is really weird how they went with the storage. Xbox, of course, 1 terabyte. It's NVMe. It's 2.4 gigabytes per second to 4.8 gigabytes per second, whether it's raw or compressed, depending. And that's where the PS5 has a huge advantage of the Series X. The PS5 is 5.5 gigabytes per second, up to 9, but usually between 8 and 9 gigabytes per second. Again, that's retrospectively for raw or compressed. And the reason they went with 825 is because the system's memory, the SSD, is married to all of the components inside of the PS5, the CPU, the GPU, etc. And that's where their secret sauce is. That's what a lot of people are saying on the PS5 fanboys, people who are not so by Parody Paradise, donating to our own stream. Thank you very much, man. You don't have to do that, brother.
Yeah, it almost makes no sense.
It almost doesn't, but you know what? I still appreciate you, Parody. We love you too, brother. Parody supporting our own stream. Love it. But
this is what we do.
It is what we do. But 825 gigabytes is because they work in parallel. So you need a specific amount of memory on each one of those lanes to benefit from those high speeds. Think of it as dual channel RAM, right? If you have single channel RAM, it's like a single lane of highway traffic. If you have dual channel RAM, you have 2 lanes now instead of 1. You can double your data. You can double your traffic, right? So that's essentially what they're doing, but they're doing that from the core. They're building the house around that. And as a result, games like Ratchet and Clank, you know, you can go to different levels in literally a second. Like there's no loading screen or anything. You have this effect of going through a portal and you can see the game world on the other side of the portal. You just got to transition through it. And that's how quick it can load data. But Xbox does have a secret of its sleeve that I couldn't fit in here with the text, and I'll go into. And what they do is they have a 100 gigabyte pre-allocated system RAM able to be used from the memory. Now, it's not going to act like RAM per se, but essentially you could preload everything you need for a game on that 100 gigabytes of the storage and access it whenever you need to. Now, most games today are less than 100 gigabytes. They're getting there, and some are more, but a lot of games are under 100 gigs. You could essentially load the entire game on the storage and have the entire game and any asset in said game loaded in a split second immediately without any loading or any, not only loading, but without any stress or workload from the CPU or the GPU. The GPU doesn't go, hey, hard drive, I need this asset, give it to me. The CPU doesn't go, hey, hard drive, I need to process this, give it to me. And yeah, exactly, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, we're looking at you. Literally have that written in my notes. Warfare, we're looking at you. Like freaking every update they add like what, 20 gigabytes to the damn thing. It's insane.
20 to 40, yeah.
Insane.
It's astronomical.
I literally made my jaw drop when I saw how long that download.
I don't play it now because of that. I can't. Like I don't play it at all. And because that's ridiculous, man. Like optimize, get a better system. Like don't modify all the files in the game just to add a couple of features, you know. So hopefully they learn from that, and the next Call of Duty will be absent of that nonsense. But this will help with a lot of not only just small performance gains, but it will allow games to do a lot of things that we just don't know of today. And that holds so much true that I can't even give you examples because we have to see it in action. Microsoft hasn't done a good job at showing us what that means yet. These are all just specs on paper that I'm, you know, blown away by for both consoles. But show me all of this together in one. Paint me this picture of what these words mean. You know what I mean? And that's kind of yeah, like it just doesn't make sense to me. And then you're gonna notice velocity architecture, Kraken decompression. That's basically like the so velocity architecture is why you're allowed to get information drawn to the game immediately without any resources being taken up. That's also why you're able to quick resume. That's why if you have 5 games open at once, within 5 seconds you can switch from one to the other and you pretty much don't have to pause or quit the game out anymore. It's just always there. Kraken is very similar, but it works in its own way that accessorizes the solid state drive for more performance in game. And again, we'll have to see what that means because Sony, although they show us a good amount of gameplay, they aren't showing us that kind of stuff yet. No one is. You know, they're both guilty for that. And then we have the hardware features before I'm going to start asking you guys some questions here. So we have DirectX 12 Ultimate Mesh Shaders. Now, that's a feature that PCs will have, but having it in a console is a big deal because it essentially allows developers to create way more detailed geometry with minimal performance loss, if at all. So if you saw the Unreal 5 demo on the PS5, that's an example of that being used. They have their own version of that. That's called Geometry Engine. That you see under there on their section. So they both have their own version of like pretty much the same thing. And that's going to be huge for games like Hellblade 2. What game? I mean, there's a few games that are using it. It's rumored that Fable will be using that. I don't know if that's true, but if that's the case,
yeah, I could see that.
Phenomenal.
I could see that for sure.
I mean, did you guys see the PS5, the Unreal 5 engine demo?
I guess I haven't.
Check that out. Check that out when you get a chance because even though it was on the PS5, not the Series X, that blew me away. It truly blew. Like that's what I want to see. I want to see that for every game you're trying to show us. Convince me to buy this thing. Show me more of that. And if anybody's watching this, look that up right now. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, I exactly know what you're talking about now.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I just can't believe the levels of details there, but that's
the level design will be out of control if they can keep consistent with this
beyond
kind of
control.
stuff.
Yeah, beyond. And here's the thing, both consoles have that. So that's something you're going to see done very well on both systems. That's not exclusive. And that's something you'll actually see on PC too. That's also not going to be just a console thing. Like newer graphics cards will have that. Then we have variable rate shading, which the PS5 has supposedly just not officially talked about. So I didn't write it down because if it ends up not being true, I don't want to be miscredited. But If Sony has not said that we have it, it's just like, why wouldn't they kind of thing. And it's built into the architecture that the GPUs are both using. So why not? But Xbox has confirmed to have it. It is a big deal for it. It essentially does, what it does is any areas in a game world that you're looking at on screen that don't need to be detailed. For example, a very dark area. Like let's say you're looking at the entrance of a cave and the outside of the cave is lit, but the inside of the cave is pitch black. You can't see. Why are you going to render the details on the inside of that cave when the player can't see it anyway? And as a result of that, they lower the shading quality in those dark areas that are not to be seen or areas that they don't need details in, and they increase the shading quality of the areas that are more prevalent. And as a result, you get a much better picture, but you don't lose any performance at all to get that better picture. So it's just like a little trick. And then you have direct machine learning on the Xbox side. So this is interesting. This is something you actually see in the RTX series of graphics cards right now. And what it basically is an AI that can take not only textures, but the resolution of a game, and it can increase it through its self-learning. So how is this going to be helpful? So let's say you have a game that is running at 1800p, in 4K is 2160 for reference. You can, the machine, the AI can essentially create that gap. And it can render in all the pixels that essentially don't exist, but it can do it anyway and create those pixels, make it exist without zero performance to the hardware. And oftentimes on computers, DirectML, which is in relation to DLS 2.0, it looks better than native 4K. So that feature right there, I'm very interested in seeing what they're going to do with that. Sony does.
Yeah, does that correlate with like the big scale combat you were talking about earlier with like large scale battles where they don't really need to focus on it? Like it's going to be their own fights. The AI is going to be complicated. Is that kind of like along the lines that you're talking about?
Well, they kind of could do that. The machine learning could move into actual artificial intelligence of the NPCs in the game world, but this is more of like graphical resolution. So instead of making your Xbox do 4K natively, why don't you do about 15% less than that? So that way you save that 15% of performance and make certain things look better, and just have a machine fill in that gap with zero loss to performance. And the viewer, there is zero difference between the native 4K that would have cost 15% more resources to achieve. That's essentially what they're doing. And it works with textures too. So it kind of goes into, I was talking about the decompression block for Xbox and how they have that 100 gigabyte cache on standby. This actually goes in with that perfectly because the AI is also capable of up-resing textures. So not only are games going to be able to give assets to graphics cards and CPUs immediately with zero effort and zero resources, and in some cases have the whole entire game already loaded, not a single loading screen needed whatsoever, but you're also going to be able to lower the resolution of textures, saving massively on, especially because we have 4K consoles coming out. They're going to save on the texture size, have very low resolution textures in the game files, and then the machine learning increases the textures to super high details. And as a result, you don't notice the difference at all between if they did or didn't do that feature, but you will notice way less storage being taken up by the game and better performance with better looking textures, less video memory taken up and everything. How will it cost $500? So Microsoft Relock Play brings up a really good point here. We were going to talk about price more towards the end, but I'm going to touch up on this now.
It's a huge problem there.
So Relock, I can actually say this just because I don't work for them anymore, but I worked for Microsoft up until around the end of May. And a lot of internal talk was about taking a loss. Now, Microsoft is no surprise to anybody. They're one of the richest companies in the world. They got money, is basically what I'm saying. And as a result, they were going to sell it at a loss like they did with the original Xbox back in 2001. And they were going to make up for it with Game Pass subscriptions. And that is why they're pounding Game Pass down everybody's throat. Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass. You hear it everywhere. They talk about it all the time. And it is a good deal, don't get me wrong. But they need to make money. They can't just lose money and expect to keep making consoles and stay in the competition. So they want to be super competitive and not be beat. They got their hide tanned back in 2013 when the PS4 had a $100 cheaper console that was about 50% more powerful graphically. And everybody bought it. I mean, look at the sales. As a result, PS4 outsold the Xbox One by more than double. And that's because mainly of that start. It had such a strong start. No one was buying. Xboxes were collecting. I worked at Best Buy at the time. Xboxes were collecting dust. PS4s were sold out everywhere. Couldn't get one. They should, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right to give and take there. I mean, there's also the point that, like, I mean, I don't think it was a coincidence that Mixer closed down.
Yeah, savings everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were kind of just trying to make some room for there to take it at a loss. So I think it honestly makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. There's a lot of clues being left around here and there that you can pick up on where it starts to really paint a picture. It really starts to make sense. So if they hit $500, I mean, I don't believe this, but there was rumors going around that it would be $400. I don't believe that for a minute, but they want to undercut the PS5 is what they're trying to do. Whether it's by $100 or $50, they want to undercut it. So if the PS5 is announced for $500, they're going to take as much of a hit as they need to do $450 or $400. And then the Series S, which is supposed to be coming out or rumored to be coming out and is supposed to be announced later this month, supposedly, air quotes, 400. Yeah, if it's 400, then I'd crap my pants.
Brother,
I'm going to be honest
having
with
the power of a 2080 Super and just having like this super optimized compressed gaming system selling for $400. Why build a PC at that point? Why buy a PC for $1,200 when you could just buy like a $400 Xbox Series X and have the same amount of performance?
Well, I'm glad you said that.
I'm so excited.
That's way too cheap. I mean,
oh yeah, that's absolutely way too cheap.
And that's the point. That's exactly it. It's dirt cheap that no one would believe it. And I like that's kind of one of those things where it's like I feel faint. Like, is that $400? Did I hear you? Can you say that again? Like, because I really wouldn't believe it. But I mean, it was a rumor. And rumors are rumors, but they want to undercut the PlayStation. So whatever the PlayStation is trying to hit, they're either going to match or go lower than that. That's essentially how I'm gauging it, and that's, they've said we won't be beaten on price, and that means they either have to match or sell lower. Otherwise, guess what? You guys got beat on price. It doesn't matter if you're the more powerful console. Price is price, and you can't be a higher number and not, be beaten. Say you weren't beaten by it. Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, king. Yeah,
See,
unfortunately, king.
Exactly, and Relock, you're bringing up our chat really engaging tonight. 700 would be way too much. Even me, who has to buy it because of the channel, I would consider not buying it. Like that's just a lot, a lot of money. At that point, you're really close to just PC 1080p Ultra, 1440p Ultra, 60 frames per second territory. Just upgrade your rig.
That brings up a valid point, though. There's it's a really hard middle ground to meet there. So if you price it too much, then you might as well buy a PC. Price it too low, then why buy a PC? It's real tough middle ground.
It really is. And they have that entry-level Series S, 1S replacer that's supposed to be half of whatever the Series X. So if the Series X is 500, Series S will be 250. If the X is 400, the Series S will be 200, etc. And that's supposed to be more powerful than the Xbox One X by a small margin, but especially, it's going to have all the same specs rumored as the Series X, just with less system RAM for lower resolutions and a less powerful GPU. But we'll see how they do all that. But it's just amazing to me that if we can even talk about the level of hardware we're talking about for those rumored price points. Even at $500, we can't be unreal. PS5 and Xbox Series X at $500 is still a good value. On paper, look at these specs. A computer to get the similar specs would cost you a lot. But at that point, just go 1080p, get the same level of fidelity, and just save the money on the PC side of things. A Series X or a PS5 isn't going to do your homework, nor is it going to render your videos. You know what I mean? But
you can't really future-proof your PC for that kind of price.
Yeah,
because they might as well.
When the whole Xbox is as powerful as a $800 to $1,000 GPU, and it costs less than or about the same as this a CPU in a computer would cost, like my 3070. Or wow, I can't talk today. My 3700X, my Ryzen 7, that thing costs. Didn't cost me anything because I got the AMD ambassadorship. Thank you, AMD. I don't know if you're watching, but it normally costs $330, right? $330. So if the Xbox came out at 400 or 500, $170 to $70 more gets you a console that has about the same CPU power, but $800 2080 Super level of gaming performance. That's asinine. That's literally asinine. I think that's a good call, though, Relock. Get it used later on. Let those exclusives start pouring out. They got some day ones, but most of the stuff shown isn't going to come out right away. And I think a 2070 Super is, really the sweet spot right now. But I'm going to wait. I'm going to see what they do. Of course, my next graphics card is going to be a 3070 or a 3080. I'm up in the air on it. And then I'll start benchmarking that, add that to my list. But I want to see what they put out first. And yeah, it's going to be expensive. Most of us here in this chat are going to buy both either day one or within the first few months of launch. And it's going to be a chunk, regardless if they're both value consoles. Combined with tax, you're still looking at like, what, $1,000, even at these rumored price.
But I mean, it's the next gen, man. I mean, it's no matter what direction you look at it. You're either on ship or you're not.
I know that 1050 Ti relock is really hanging in there. I gotta upgrade that though. I'm looking at the new Acer Nitro 5 model, 1650 coming in the mobile form. I got it on the desktop, but it's honestly my desktop 1650s from PNY, and it doesn't hold up too well sometimes. But so I'm gonna segue into the next topic here, just because like we could literally keep doing it. Nick Williams,
Much love to you, Nick Williams.
Much love, man. How you doing, buddy? It's been forever. I hope things are going well with you. Thanks for stopping by. As always, it's a pleasure to have you in the chat.
Look at the little Shiba with the heart. Oh my god.
I always wanted one of those dogs.
So cute. Shibas are so cute.
This is Nick giving me one of the dogs I've always wanted. Thank you, Nick, so much. Much appreciated, man. This kind of support literally lets us keep going and keeps us motivated. I hope all is well with you, brother. You guys will notice this man has a special symbol next to his name. He has been a member of mine, my top tier members for... oh God, ever since I got the memberships, I believe. And he has been just hanging strong with me. Appreciate the support, buddy. Definitely love having you here. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Nick.
That's what you call a real one. That's really, really, really what you call
Ride
it.
or die. That's what it is.
Nick's always been a real one. He's probably the realest person I know. And let's be real. Like, you could never have too many of... if we could clone a whole army of Nick Williams, it would be done. Like, say no more, it would be done. But... I mean, so I'm going to ask you guys this. Now, with everything I've told you, right, and the chat can even answer this too. This is a question for literally everybody.
Hit us with it.
Out of everything that you've seen, the hardware you see on the spec sheet here, everything we've talked about, all the enhancements, rumored price points, and the chat kind of did answer this already, so this is mainly for you guys, but feel free to chime in some more, chat. What console do you think is going to take the W this year? Like, if we're talking console wars, and I personally don't believe in it, but if we were talking console wars with price exclusives, games we've seen so far, gameplay we've seen so far.
I need to know what they're competing for, like performance wise, like who's gonna sell more.
That's fair. That's
because I think Xboxes will probably sell more if the rumored prices are correct. But I mean, I also had the privilege of talking to you about all this stuff, and like there is a lot of advantages to the Xbox that are kind of being hidden in there that a lot of people might even go unnoticed. So like somebody, an elder to me, say my uncle, who is a huge Sony fan, he probably wouldn't even take a second look at the Xbox Series X just because of the name, you know?
I mean, look at the sales. The sales numbers are astronomically higher for PS4 than Xbox. So there's people who are just like, I don't care what Xbox has to show or what's on paper. I'm going to get a damn PS4. I don't care. And so what are the rumored prices? That's kind of what we were diving into earlier. Between Xbox Series X, between 400 to 600, mostly 500 is being predicted, and the PS5 is also in the same ballpark, depending if you're talking digital or physical. Go ahead, DankVibez.
Yeah, so I mean, if it's like I said, there's a lot of like underground stuff on the Xbox that you just don't really understand as a basic consumer, or someone like my uncle who would just want to buy the PS5 just because their name would understand, you know. So I think it's really going to come down to money, really coming down to prices. Obviously, I think the Xbox Series X is a more powerful system. I mean, there's no denying it if you just look at the paper.
Right.
But if it's really about how much you're going to sell, and I think Microsoft is going to end up selling more if they drop the price low enough.
I'm going to have to agree with that. You know, regardless of how many people have the PS4 and they're just going to laterally transition to the PS5. I mean, marketing is key. So both companies are going to have to market real well to kind of determine the tide at the beginning of all this. But if people start seeing like this is a more affordable console and on paper it's better, and then Microsoft does a better job at showing us all of those specs that you see on screen now in physical form, show us what this means, I think it'll actually be either a more equal battle this year or this generation, or maybe Xbox might, go back to the 360 days and start tipping the tide a little bit. We'll have to see. But I'm going to ask you that same question, Parody. What are you thinking, man? Who do you think is going to take the W this time around? And after everything I've told you, after all we've talked about, including price, what are you thinking?
I mean, I think the Xbox is definitely going to take it. I love everything about Xbox. I love all the exclusives. And to me, what I've seen on the screen, it just looks like 10 times better. To me, I like the ray tracing. I want to see how that comes out. And I'm not really into PS5. It just looks like an ice cream sandwich. I don't know.
Are you talking about visually? Visually, it doesn't
Yeah,
look good.
yeah. Visually,
Oh my
I mean,
God.
yeah. Visually, it doesn't look that good. I mean, I honestly rather just play Nintendo. You know when they had like the cardboard boxes and you just played with those with your friends? Yeah.
Oh
Can't
my
Don't
God.
come
I
on
can't
here and start
complain.
talking shit about Nintendo. Though.
I'm not.
I mean,
I'm not. I love Nintendo. Okay, if I could dress up in cardboard boxes and play a game for cheap, I'm fine. But
well, listen, yeah, I mean, console gamers probably don't care much about specs, but I also don't want to talk about them like they don't notice these kind of things. I mean, some people do their research and they have to take account of that no matter what.
Yeah, and you want to impress those that do take the time to research, because if you don't, they're going to have a real biased opinion. And I'm just going to reference the chat a little bit. So people were saying Halo Infinite looked bad. Yeah, we did a live reaction of it. We said the same thing. At first, like I literally said out loud, like, "Oh no." After they left the plane, he started running around in the field and went into the Warhog. I was really just like, "Oh no!" And when I saw the pop in like 5 feet away in the grass, I was like, "Oh no, no!" But I mean, they got some time to like do some upgrades, and I mean, I guess we'll see. But they said in a statement they wanted original art style, and they literally said we stand by it. And I think they got it twisted. We wanted art style in the sense of like go back to the old weapons, go back to the old Marines, go back to the old go back to how everything was, but make it a next gen looking game for Christ's sake. Like, you know what I mean? And
I could definitely agree that Sony's like marketing their system better, especially like showing off what they could do.
yeah, man. I mean,
But the real point comes down to like it really matters what the price is, because especially with all this COVID stuff going on, like the world's tough right now. Money's tough, but we got to be honest about that.
yeah.
So if you're going to be holding back and not telling us what we have to spend, we need to understand what we need to save up for,
Exactly.
or what kind of damage this is going to do to us. I mean, times are tough.
Exactly.
So it's going to come down to price. It really is. I think that's
Yeah.
what's really going to determine what sells more. I mean, PlayStation 5 can do all the best marketing. They could do the best they can, but if Xbox undersells it, then they lose.
Yeah, it's real hard times right now. I mean, we know so many people that are going through rough times. There's millions of people jobless in the United States right now. If you guys are in chat from the US, you know this very well. And there's a lot of other countries that are having their struggles too. But, the way we're handling coronavirus definitely isn't the most effective way, that's for sure. And as a result of that, there's a lot of people struggling right now financially, and they don't even know how much money they should be, I have a little bit of extra. How much should I put aside for next gen consoles? I don't know. It comes out in a couple of months and they still haven't said. So the fact that we still don't know the price of these things, and it's rumored that they're going to be coming out and as late as the end of November, and there's still no price, like, what are you guys doing? Like, they're both waiting for someone to say something so they can undercut or at least do the best price possible in competition. But it's actually getting ridiculous. That's exactly it, Relock. It's freaking ridiculous.
Yeah,
we need prices.
absolutely.
We need release dates. They got to stop being quiet. The fact that Sony didn't say it today, I thought they were. They flat out said before the event we're not. And I was like, come on, man. Like, I'm disappointed already. When are you going? It's like the end of August when you have like less than 45 days to launch the damn thing. Gonna be, is that your priority? Because that's not an effective one, I think.
I think that's a fair point, Ace. Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. That
It
if
is a
they're
fair
struggling
point.
enough, they're not worried about it anyway.
Well,
But I mean, still, you got to let people know. I mean, stimulus checks going out. I mean, people spend their money how they want to spend their money. Nobody's going to tell them how to do that.
yeah,
But-
see, yeah, you really can't. And I mean, like, I'm not gonna. I'll be personal with it. Like my girlfriend, she was getting unemployment. We lived together, and she banked all of it. Like she was, you know what I mean? She banked so much of it. So even when all of this is over, she's gonna have a stacked savings account. Like, she's catching up on all of her debt and whatnot. How much can I put towards this console if she wanted to buy one? There's people out there who did bank a lot of their money. How much can I just throw towards it? Can I throw anything towards it? Let me know now. Or like people just starting to get back into the workflow. Like there's just a lot of, there's a lot of unknown, really. There's a lot of unknown with not just gaming, but with everything. So people just want people just want to go back to just expectations because there's too much question marks in the air right now. And that would just be one of those small things that people use for joy. And we need as much joy in this world as we can get.
I mean, yeah, and you know what? And especially with all the quarantine that has to happen or has happened. I mean, if video games weren't getting more popular as it is, this entire episode, this entire pandemic has definitely shot that up to an extra level on top of that.
Yeah. Oh, by a long shot. And we're feeling it. Everybody's got anxiety. Everyone's feeling it. So I feel like just like good news, we need as much as we can get. Even if it's not your top priority, or even if you don't plan on buying the damn thing right away, like we just need stuff to be excited for. Good news. Like I'll watch the Rad Brad play any game I don't ever plan on playing because he's a G. And I really just get so happy when a new game comes out and I don't even bother playing or have no interest playing it, but I'd love to watch somebody else do it. Like that's just kind of how it is. Just the more joy. We just need more excitement. And next gen consoles, like at the very least, we can be excited about that this year because there's so many other things that we just can't be.
Absolutely. And perform after PS6 and Xbox after this. I mean, that's looking ahead. They always seem to take our breath away with some kind of news anyway, and then I can't even possibly think about anything else they can improve on until they actually do it and show me and blow my mind with it again.
Yeah, you got speaking of PS, I'm glad you brought that up. They got there's a patent actually that just got released for a rumored PS5 Pro, which originally was rumored to be a PS5 and a PS5 Pro similar to Xbox One, Series X and Xbox Series S. For launch. Didn't end up happening, but it looks like Sony kind of did damage control with the performance delta between the two consoles. They are already looking at a mid-gen refresh possibly with 2 GPUs, and how that'll be utilized I'm not sure, but we shall see. It sounds expensive. SLI was always expensive and it never really got anywhere, but they're probably doing Sony tricks to it to make it work out. I don't know, we'll see how that works out, but the patent was filed. I might make a video on that actually at some point. I have the documents and I have all of the things listed for it, but definitely look into it if that's something that piques your interest, because there's a lot of stuff on there that's really interesting. Like kind of like when the Nintendo Switch was first patented, people are like, what the hell is Nintendo doing? Well, this patent makes you scratch your head the same way. That's all I'll say about that before I spoil anything else.
Switch ended up being genius anyway, so
yeah. I mean, if there was more Switch talk, I mean, there's a Switch Pro rumor to be coming out. We'll be having streams about Switch. Like we don't sleep on Switch around here.
Talk about who's really fucking up. That would be Nintendo.
Yeah, right. I mean, they just need to put out more games. If you ask me, like I said earlier, they got Animal Crossing, and that was their number one seller, and that's been like carrying them all year. And I agree, Relock. Let's get Cyberpunk. When the Grounded trailer said, if you're waiting for the biggest game all year, wait for Cyberpunk. I laughed so hard at that. That was my best part of that conference. But Cyberpunk is going to be such a huge deal. I cannot wait for that game. I really can't. I wish Starch was here right now because he's so excited for that game too.
So am I. Love it.
Yep, everybody's excited for it. But I think we're going to close out on the hardware section here. We're all excited for next gen. We're not biased towards any particular console. We're all going to most likely get either both consoles day one or within the first few months after. And hey, Starched is in the chat. Hey, hype. Starched is the man. Everybody say hi to Starched.
Tetris was fire, by the way. That was a crazy trailer.
Yeah, sorry, chat. I'm trying to keep up. I'm glad you guys are actually... My end, YouTube is doing YouTube things and is lagging on the chat, and it's also kind of coming at me all at once. Like I'll get 8 or 9 of your messages all at one time. So it looks like you guys are getting. So definitely thanks for helping out with that. DankVibez, Parody Paradise. I see you talking down there. So now we're going to talk games. We're just going to go right into games, right? Because, the hardware can be as good as possible. Your hardware can cost $1 and play like a $2,500 computer. But if you don't got games, I'm not spending $1. You crazy. So speaking of games, I'm going to go down the list, starting with you, DankVibez. What game are you most excited for next gen? It can be for any reason. Gameplay, graphics, but what are you waiting for, man?
What am I really waiting for? I'm waiting for the next Elder Scrolls. That's what I'm really waiting for. We got that snippet of kind of like it did the same thing with Fable, which was frustrating. But I want an Elder Scrolls 6 to be announced for next gen. I think that'll be so crazy. I'm so pumped up for that.
So, I'm really glad you said Elder Scrolls, because I was thinking about that all day today, and I was in my head, I'm like, when can I expect this game? So, Starfield is coming out first. That is their next game they're working on, and they showed us that game a couple years ago, so I want to say they're at least past early production at this point. Otherwise, they really need to get their head out of their butts. But I want to say Starfield we'll see in 2022, maybe late 2022 probably. And then after that, they probably have pre-production of Elder Scrolls now. I mean, that they definitely do if they have a trailer out for it just to show us it's going to be a thing. But because Starfield, usually what Bethesda does is they get towards the end of production on one big game, they start allocating team members that aren't as much needed anymore at later phases of development and put them on towards the next project. So I want to say you'll see the next Elder Scrolls on the Series X and PS5 indefinitely. But probably you'll probably be hearing about a mid-gen, if they're going to still do it, a mid-gen refresh, like the Xbox Series, like the Xbox One X of the Series X, if you will, and the PS5 Pro, right? Like, you'll probably see it right around then, which is even better, because if we're looking at the hardware we're looking at now, imagine what the refresh consoles of these things are going to be like.
I guess the only confusing thing is why they showed that trailer so, it feels like forever ago, doesn't it? Where they showed that little Elder Scrolls 6 snippet. But it's like, if they're planning on not, like, barely getting onto this gen without the whole mid-refresh, like, I wonder what that whole plan was.
I think so a lot of people were like, give us Elder Scrolls. I mean, there's so many of us have been saying it. Give us Elder Scrolls. What game do you guys want? Elder Scrolls. What game do you think we should make? Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls or Riot. Like, that's what everybody's been saying.
I'm guilty of it for sure.
Right, and so I think they were just doing that to shut us up. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Because Bethesda's the kind of company that'll be like, all right, shut the hell up. It's coming. Now just let us make it. Because everybody was like, Elder Scrolls or Riot. Fallout 76 sucked. Elder Scrolls, please. Fallout 4 is mediocre. Elder Scrolls, please. Like, they just wanted Elder Scrolls. They knew. Starch said it right.
I think it just made more questions, though, is the problem. Because now it's just like, give that little taste, and now we're like, shit. Now, like, we know something's being made, but I think everyone expected after they saw that trailer that next gen was going to be the definite where it's going to be on.
And I mean, think about it too. I mean, here's sad news. It's supposedly going to be created on the same engine that Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 was made on. So depending on how they can max that out, we might all have to riot, and we all might have to march on Bethesda. Big oof for real. But I mean, we'll see. I can't judge it when there's no cover to the book, so I definitely can't judge it. But that's what they did say. They're going to keep the creation engine, and I'm going to quote Todd Howard because that's how we know how to make our games. I don't agree with it, but that's what he said, and if he holds true to it, we'll have to see. Of course, creating a new engine and doing everything from fresh would definitely take a lot longer to create the game. But that being said, Starched, I think, is right. They knew that Fallout 76 was going to bomb because everybody was trashing it for features that they didn't know existed before it was even announced. And they kind of had damage control of that. If you go to the Todd Howard presentation of Fallout 76, he said, okay, wait, just before you ask, there will be, of course you can play the game alone and go on quests. But he didn't say single player. He didn't say offline servers. He literally silly goosed his way over that one immediately. Parody, I never want to hear that. See you say that again.
Sneaky Todd Howard.
What are you talking about?
Everybody,
Fallout 76?
Everybody F in the chat for Parody Paradise.
That's literally the best game I've ever played. Like, best game.
That's a big F, dude.
Starch, you can understand.
I guess in the meantime, that's why I'm so obsessed with Obsidian right now, because I think they're just filling that void that Bethesda is just so valiantly leaving.
Yeah.
So
everybody's effing you.
So for sure. So if I were to pick a second answer, if I were to like excited for a game, if it's not Elder Scrolls, it's definitely Avowed. I definitely want to know all about Avowed.
Yeah, I cannot wait for Avowed. That game is... So, we talked about it last week. $5
Don't
donation.
you dare disrespect that game.
Pop Culture Slayer.
But
Fallout 76.
That's a big fact.
I am a huge Fallout fan, and I will tell you any time of the week, any day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Fallout 76 was not just one butt, but a collective assortment of butts.
No.
Yeah.
Don't you dare. Okay, is there a refund option for this guy? Because I'm going to refund his money back. It's the best game ever made.
It don't work like that.
Fallout 77 right now.
It don't work like that, Robert. All right, listen.
Hey.
So, I mean, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I want these development companies to get an ass kicking. Literally. Financially, verbally on Twitter, I don't care how. They need to know when they make these mistakes. Like, you can't sit down at a table at a conference with a bunch of leads for your development company and say, hey, guys, let's make a lot of things people don't want and make it in this game. because that's just, are you kidding me? And I feel like that's what a lot of development companies have been doing with some games is like, all right, guys, let's sit down and what would make people really mad and not want to play our game? Let's add this microtransactions and nothing but, like, you know what I mean? Like
everything nowadays,
literally everything that would piss you off. And that's exactly, I'm starting to notice the trend of development companies going like, okay, wait, we gotta dial it back because we're getting shamed for this, and we don't want that.
How can you blame them though? I mean, people still spend that money. I'm guilty of it. I know, like everybody I know is guilty of it. So how could you blame them for putting microtransactions in every game? I mean, we all miss the days where we can log into Halo and just work for our actual cosmetics. But
I didn't mind so. I should have like Battlefront 2, for example. When Battlefront 2 came out, like, I mean, there's parts of the game where it's a clear advantage for being a higher level than other players and upgrading your star cards. You could have bought that day one and just have an immediate edge over other players just for spending money. And that's the problem I really have. Yeah, pay to win's terrible. Pay to win is a literal plague. It is. So, like, I don't mind extra cosmetics, but don't make it pay to win. Don't make it revolve only around that. Don't make it so I can only get most things if I spend money. Like, have it be, like, special cosmetics or, you know what I mean? Like make a flaming aura go around the body of my character, but don't make me super powerful.
If I'm being honest about it, yeah, I'm a little pissed off about the microtransactions in every game. Like, I miss the days where I can just work for my cosmetics and like every kid with a debit card didn't have the same one. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that's true. Variety.
That just doesn't exist anymore because microtransactions work. They sell.
And companies are taking advantage of that, so unfortunately, and in bad ways too. Like I said, there's good ways, there's bad ways. I think companies are starting to open their eyes more towards the good ways because they got that flack. They had to get a couple shots at them, you know what I mean? And then they learned their lesson. But I mean, it's all trial and error. Over time, we're going to start seeing these things get better because at the end of the day, it doesn't look good for you to have people know you for particularly controversial things. Like EA said, like, we hate how people consider us the worst company in existence. We absolutely hate being told that. We hate knowing that. So they made a half-priced competitive game with full campaign. Star Wars Squadron's coming out soon. And they got rid of microtransactions for the most part of Battlefront. Actually, I don't think you can buy anything in the game at all with real life money. So like they're starting to learn from that. So it's all about, you know, feedback and honestly teaching these companies what's up when they do slip up. Like earning Hayabusa Arma in Halo 3. Those are the good days. See, Starch got it right. Like what happened to that? What happened to you just busting your ass in a game and getting good at it and unlocking things that other people didn't have because of a skill difference, not because of your wallet.
Yeah, not because of your wallet, man. That just sucks. It just doesn't feel good anymore. You know, like you used to see like somebody with the Hayabusa armor, and you was been like, man, that's the man right there. That's it.
That's
now it's just like it just lost its magic. Now it's just like, I guess I'll just take my wallet out again.
And I don't like that, and I don't think anybody does. And it's starting. I think there's definitely some changes starting to be made there. But now I'm going to forward the question to Parody here. Parody, out of all the games we talked about, out of all the games we've seen, what game are you most excited for? Like, what are you waiting for? What do you think about?
Let's see. Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm trying to think because like I got my bachelor's in like janitorial studies. So
Immediately
I think
want to kick him out of the chat.
No, because so after I got that degree and I feel good, I feel like I need to play gunk because there's so many different ways to clean up bullshit that I need to learn this. That's what I need the best. I think that's going to be the game of the year. Better than Fallout 76.
So you mean to tell so the Space Janitor game, in your words, is the game you're most excited for?
Yes, because it's just out of my reach. Like I went to college for 4 years, and this just advances me within 10-hour gameplay.
Went to college for 4 years for janitorial studies.
Yes, it's an actual profession. Some people actually do this.
All right.
I like to clean.
Gunk is okay. Gunk is a fire game. All right.
I'll take your answer. I just can't. Thank you for the $2 donation. I'm gonna use your name. I just can't. I agree with you, man. I just can't.
I couldn't agree more with you, actually.
You can't. You couldn't have come at a better time. Oh Lord.
But honestly, no. I think I'm honestly waiting for Cyberpunk. I'm really excited for that. That game looks crazy. I like how they added the Keanu at the end in that trailer I saw. The last trailer I saw.
Swear to God, you put in Keanu Reeves, the shit just sells. It just sells itself.
That's all you gotta do.
Honestly.
he's just a shooter, bro. I see him shoot, and I want to just keep.
I
watching
see
him
I
shoot.
see Ratchet and Clank on my. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoa, way
Whoa.
wrong game. But whoa, but like imagine Keanu Reeves in this. I mean, this would be brilliant.
What character would he be?
The one that
I
kicks
guess
ass and
the
take
main
names,
villain. I would assume he would make a great villain.
Star Wars
He's too
Squadrons does
nice.
look really
He's
cool,
too
Ace.
nice.
I agree. How do you fly with PC controls? I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm assuming it's going to be similar to Battlefront when you get into a spaceship in that game, but we'll have to see. It is VR compatible, so that's pretty dope. I would definitely want to try that if I got VR. I mean, they're starting to see more VR games coming out, like with Half-Life Alyx and now Star Wars Squadrons. So, it might be feasible to spend the $400 or $500 just to get a headset, because games are going to they're going to start coming out with those features and those high-level graphics. And oh yeah, VR today, they showed Hitman. They have a PSVR compatible Hitman version of the game now.
Whoa.
And you can strangle the life out of somebody in first person. It's
Whoa,
pretty,
okay, that's cool.
it is pretty intense. I'm
My
not
dreams
gonna
have
lie.
come true.
Here's something I would be excited for. I think if the next gen can really integrate VR into their systems, I think VR really should get a head start. I'm really excited for what they can do with that kind of technology.
Well, see, that's PS5 has an advantage there, because they did say that, VR's, I mean, day one, I believe it's compatible, backwards compat, but they are going to, of course, make a PSVR 2 eventually. Like, the PSVR did very well. And, I mean, take the graphics that are in the original PSVR, like Hitman 2 was shown today in OG VR, and it looked gorgeous. That's a strong game graphically. And if you take the hardware that is the PS5, when you do a relative comparison for performance, the PS5, 10.28 teraflops max versus the PS4's 1.8. 1.8 teraflops is able to play that Hitman game. So imagine first-person VR with a 6 times more powerful GPU, more than that. It's gonna look stellar. So
Sounds
it's gonna
crazy.
come back strong.
You know what? VR stuff is really what I'm excited for too, because that's the future. Everybody, 20 years from now, everybody's gonna have a dedicated room to their video games, and VR is the start of it.
I don't
Have
know.
you guys played any VR games?
A few.
I've played a few. I used to go to PAX a lot, and I went to a few booths when it was just starting up, and it was so much fun. Honest to God, you put on that headset long enough, you forget what reality you really are in. You take it off, and it's like you need a second.
Oh man, yeah.
It's so much fun. VR is so much fun. And
You've never tried it, Parody?
What was that?
You've never tried it?
I've played VR. I did VR chat. That was my thing. I would go in there and talk
Yeah,
to
but
people.
do you use the headset?
Yeah, I used a headset. Yeah, it was really weird. I felt my equilibrium was unbalanced. I almost fell a couple times, but like it was fun. It was fun. I was standing and like screaming.
There we go, world. Yeah, let's cop a Valve Index. We're gonna get a full set, 1K on that bit. I agree. That's how Half-Life Alyx is meant to be played, and Half-Life is also one of my favorite franchises. So I'm about it, boy. Let's do it. Let's do it. Make a video about it. I'm for it. But
See, more Scrolls talk, Elder Scrolls in VR, dude. Come on.
oh, it's gonna look great. And I mean, I can't promise for Xbox. There's zero rumors for Xbox on this, honestly, at least that I've heard. But if Microsoft, let's say Microsoft acquired a VR headset, for example, I know they wouldn't get Oculus because Facebook bought that out and Valve owns the Index. But let's say they made their own, or they partnered with somebody and they were able to bring that to the Xbox. If the PlayStation and Xbox both had high-level VR headsets, you would see that come to PC so much more often. Like, you would see not only where more games exist, so there would be more incentive to buy one, but you would have features come out for the PC, because PC always advances a little quicker than consoles. That's a given. So VR would evolve essentially beyond what we know it as already, which is already pretty high tech. So I really hope they do that. And if worst case scenario, PS5 will do it, and hopefully that does something, that propels it further into the future, because augmented reality is really one of the next steps that they could take in tandem with virtual reality. And when you combine those two, I can only imagine in my head the kind of level of fidelity and the kind of games we would get. But again, things that are to be seen in the future, only time will tell. So, I mean, we went over games that we're excited for. For me personally, I'm just going to have to say it's going to be silly. It's a multi-plat game. I can play it on any console except for the Switch. And that's going to be Far Cry 6. Really random game. I'm not going to say Halo Infinite because, I'm not sure yet. I'm anticipated, but I'm not sure if I'm, hyped.
That surprised me with that answer.
Right.
Wow.
You know, Avowed, I'm excited for, but it's, you know, some wait time to it, so I can't be too excited, otherwise I'm going to go crazy. So Far Cry 6 is going to come out in February, and Far Cry 5 was one of my favorite games of all time, believe it or not. And Far Cry 6 is taking everything from Far Cry 5 and all the other good Far Cries before it and combining it all into one. And the graphics on that game look stellar. I sent you guys some screenshots. I can send them again. Holy crap, one of the more impressive games. Yeah, I mean, the trailer was intense. I'm excited for what the story is going to be. You have a pet dog companion that has broken hind legs, so it uses like a wheelchair for dogs, and it kills enemies with kindness. That's all they've said about it, but like, where could you go wrong in that? Like, I am so...
Wait, what?
Look it up. Its name is Chizio or something like that. Like, it's in... I am so excited for that, but...
This shit sells itself.
It sells
Chizio's
itself.
a nice dog, but he kills?
He kills with kindness, and I don't know if it, like, he distracts enemies and, like, I don't know, shoots acid confetti in their eyeballs.
Or maybe he just, like, looks really cute, and then you just, you know, they're distracted, you just shoot him.
That could be it.
You know what I'm saying?
That could be it.
What makes Far Cry your like that game for you?
So Far Cry 5, I've always been a Far Cry fan in general, but Far Cry 5 caught my interest in particular because the game environment. Something about it takes place in Montana, so something about that open sky country scenery that just takes me back to my childhood because I grew up in like a little farm fucking village, right? Like there's nothing going on where I grew up, and that kind of reminded me of that. It brought me back with nostalgia, but it also brought a lot out in the United States that I like about the United States, and that's kind of like having your own land and having that space to go hunting and all that other. You're able to do all of that, and then you're literally... Go ahead.
Right, you were just free to do your own thing. And...
Right, which is like every Far Cry, but the scenery of this one in particular, I mean, it's the best looking game thus far. It was their newest iteration, so of course that's a given. But beyond that, just the game world itself, how the characters interacted with each other, the characters in general. They added a guns for hire system, which essentially is like a companion system. You could have up to 2 people following, or animals for that case, following you at once, and they all had special abilities that you could synergize, but it wasn't RPG. And they talked to each other, they talked to you, the game world kind of morphed around you. You could kind of choose how you wanted to beat the game to a certain extent, in what order. And that's the only Far Cry I've ever played more than once, and that's the only game in the last like 5 years I've beaten more than twice. And I actually did, on my second channel, I did a long play of it, and I enjoyed every second of it, even though it was like my 4th time through. So love that game. And Far Cry 6 is already, like they even said, we take everything that everybody loved out of the last few games and we're combining it into this one. And they just chose like the amazing actors for this one as the antagonists. They chose the scenery is gorgeous. It takes place in a fictional Cuba. And it's just like, there's just so much to it. You get a little bit of tropical, a little bit of urban, which we've never seen before in Far Cry. So I'm so excited for that. I know I'm diving in to a completely unrelated
No, it's okay.
game
This
topic,
game, I'm excited for it as well. Don't worry.
Yeah, I cannot wait for that.
That just goes to show how RPG oriented we are in general. Like, that's just our style, you know, like the whole go about your business, explore the open world, and you make the game what it is. That's kind of like what we're looking for.
I love that.
For a lot of things.
Like games that don't have as much or not a lot of that. Like Paper Mario, I just completed Paper Mario recently, and that game was dog shit to me. Like I loved the first and the second Paper Mario, and ever since they kind of fell off. And this game had more RPG elements in it than the other Paper Marios from what I've heard, but they took out just enough to make me not give a damn about it. And it just, you know, the game world was so lovable. There's so much passion to it. So much I don't want to say personality, because I mean Paper Mario itself is a personality, but it was definitely new and different, and they took out just enough RPG and character building for me to be like, nah, why bother do anything? So you're absolutely right about that. Now, so we talked about games we like. We talked about games we're excited for. I'm going to go in reverse order. What game would you guys, and this is an open-ended question, so whoever wants to take it, what game would you criticize the most? What game did not convince you of next gen? What game are you going to hard skip immediately out of everything that's been shown for next gen? It can be an exclusive or a multi-plat, it doesn't matter. But what game is not out yet for next gen that you are like, what the hell?
I got one right off the top. What was that one? What was that one? It looked like Stranger Thing.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Just kind of looked like a story element kind of deal.
I believe it's As Dusk Falls.
Ew.
The Medium, Joe's, Starch is looking for the... So, The medium,
Dust
either you were impressed with the medium or you weren't impressed with the medium stuff.
as Dust Falls, I think it was.
Yeah, that game. So I think when we were actually watching, so not only did during our Xbox event where we just destroying that game visually, but during our live reaction, we were just like, is this a 360 showcase or a Xbox Series X?
Like, it looks so god awful, and it just goes against everything that I think they were trying to market, which is why it was the biggest question mark of the entire event to me. I was just like, what am I looking at?
Yeah, I really was like, my iPhone XR can play this, and I still wouldn't. Like, it's just not. I get the game might have a great story and it might have great gameplay. Oh man, Avowed is up on screen right now, and every single time I see it, it just drops. Like, I just cannot wait to see.
Yeah, it just takes my breath away every time. But like, what were you trying to show there? Honestly, like, even if it had, at best, it has a good story. I can't see the gameplay being good because I don't know. Visually, it just doesn't look good. So like. Medium is along the same lines. Like, that's just how I feel about both of those.
So the medium, I didn't think so. The medium graphically, definitely, I feel like using the velocity architecture and the NVMe, and them using those new technologies in a way that's never been done before, certainly limits the visual quality to a certain degree. I didn't think the game looked bad, but I also am not gonna buy it because I have seen recent gameplay, and it's just. Gameplay of that kind is just not for me, to be honest. Like, controlling two characters at once in two different worlds, great concept. I'll watch somebody else play. Like I said earlier, the Rad Brad exists for that. I'll watch him play the game through because I don't personally want to play it, but I do want to know more about it and the story. Or maybe even watch one of you guys play it. If one of you guys is like, hey, I'm going to play this, I'll definitely watch. But scary games are more than welcome in my backlog because I love that kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
But like, just the gameplay and the style that it is, I'm not really into. And like I said, I feel like they're taking advantage of those extra hardware and software features that we haven't seen be used before because they're new, and kind of used that as like it overpowered their development time, if that makes sense. Like that's not something they can just flick a switch and all of a sudden that exists. Like, they actually have to develop that into existence and make it work. And it takes time, it takes resources. I can't judge it because it's not out yet, but Panda Hands, XR is a stretch. Yeah, it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you get my point. It's definitely a step back compared to Halo 5 graphics. Hopefully they shape up their act and push out for ray tracing. Yes, we were talking about that earlier, Panda. I'm not sure if you were here. I honestly say delay the damn game. Like, if you can't make the game your flagship title and your main launch title release with full features, especially when they're trying to sell all this amazing hardware on paper, just delay it and get it out there at launch, because people don't want a game to be launched not even 90% finished. I want 100% finished, right? I think you deserve that.
Stop killing your workers with crunch times and finish a goddamn game when it's supposed to be finished.
True.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that.
Big facts. And I think, ray tracing, it's no joke. Like, that can be a huge, like I always say it, look at Minecraft, ray tracing on versus off. It's a box voxel game. Like, it looks amazing with ray tracing. Imagine that on a game with higher visual fidelity, like Halo. You know what I mean? It could immediately turn everybody from saying this game looks like last gen to this is what next gen is. But until you implement that feature, or at least show us, it's not going to convince anybody. And now look at it. They have the Craig meme. I'm sure everybody knows about Craig. Craig the Brute. And if you don't, I'll send it to you. It's the most gut-wrenching thing to see this hardware behind this console, and that's the example of what they have to show for it. And yes, Ace, higher FPS is better than ray tracing, but that's exactly what they kind of have done. They're able to hit higher frame rates with ray tracing. There is 13 teraflops worth of dedicated ray tracing capability in the Series X. Don't confuse that as a 25 teraflop machine. They're definitely not going to market that. But to get the level of ray tracing that they are capable of having, it would require 13 teraflops of extra performance, is essentially what I'm saying. They did confirm that, so you can definitely get ray tracing with high frame rates combined. It's the other things that I think they're sacrificing to get that 4K 60. Like, use the machine learning, use checkerboarding. Don't hit 4K native if you have to jeopardize not only frame rate, but you also have to jeopardize a 5-foot pop-in with grass textures and stuff like that, like in Halo Infinite. And yes, see, Ace, that's how bad it is. The Greg meme is from Halo Infinite. That is from the trailer that was shown, and a lot of people, I mean, it looks like a Halo 3. It really does look like an old Halo, and that's exactly, Microsoft is embracing it. They think it's hilarious. I don't think it's hilarious. You're trying to market all this hardware, and you're laughing at a meme that proves you guys have some work to do. But yeah, that's where that's from. They just announced a partnership with 343 and another studio. My guess is to push it to completion and avoid the crunch. Yes, it has to absolutely be all hands on deck. I think everybody in our panel here can unanimously agree with you on that. They know they have a lot of work to do. They said they expected some of the feedback, but a lot of things surprised them. And, do they have eyeballs? Did some things surprise them? Did they see what they posted? They did not expect that they were going to get some flack. I mean, they expected it was a couple of weeks older build and that they had some polishing to do. But there's some things that people threw at them and they weren't expecting that. And now they have to go back and do all that. So hopefully you're right. The partnership, they get ray tracing and then they launch it with ray tracing, because ray tracing by itself, 4K 60 with ray tracing is what next gen can do. So definitely do it. Looks like Shrek and Thanos had a baby.
Oh no.
Oh man, you should tweet that at him. Got him.
It looks like old Caesar from Planet of the Apes.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God! And see, the jokes just keep going, and Microsoft's proud of that. They laugh at, if they were listening to us right now, they said they would laugh at it and they think it's hilarious. But that's an insult. Yeah, weird, nonchalant. And I mean, I wish Relock was still here, because we were kind of saying earlier, they kind of don't care about certain things. It's like they're talking a big game and they're proud, but they kind of are laid back about it. They have the recliner kicked up, but they're also super stoked. Relock, you are here. Phone died, Wi-Fi being real crap. Yeah, man, I understand. The weather, if you're anywhere near the storm that just went through the East Coast, definitely understand. You stay safe out there. Thanks for stopping by the chat. Much appreciated, brother.
Much love to you as usual. Much love to you as usual.
So, moving on then. We're finishing up this stream here. We're kind of getting towards the end. Yeah, I understand that, brother. Just stay safe out there. Hopefully your Wi-Fi gets better soon. Stay tuned for more videos as always, and thank you so much for your support as always. Now, so we talked about games you're excited for. We talked about games that you criticize the most and want to give the most heat to the developers for. So, final question I'm really going to go into.
Ooh.
And this is going to be an interesting question, because we've talked about multi-plat games. We've talked about exclusives. Let's say, hypothetically, the both of you and myself, we get a PS5, we get an Xbox Series X, and we upgrade our rigs to the next, big Navi or 30 series graphics cards when they release. And or in this case, Rob, you actually get a damn computer that's capable of getting. This man's still on an Acer Nitro, won't even get a desktop. No,
leave me alone.
Let's say you get a rig, right? So for multi-plats, what's your go-to destination? Right, let's use Far Cry 6 again. It's going to be on all PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. Where are you going for that game? What are you playing it on? I'm gonna start with you, DankVibez. Where are you going? And tell me why. What are you feeling?
See where it gets tough. Okay, see if I were to, so it's me upgrading my rig all the way, and I have the Xbox Series X, and I have the PS5. If that's the case, I'd probably stick to my PC then. Because there are still a lot of PC exclusive games that I'd rather enjoy. I think I would prefer keeping with my tower here, just because I feel like there's more accessibility. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
One thing I'm picking up on is I feel your hesitation on it too, because there's just a lot.
It's the price. It's just. Going into all these consoles, it's just it comes down to what I gotta pay. You know what I'm saying? So I guess if everything was upgraded all the way, then my answer would have to be PC, because that's just where I feel like the performance is gonna be. It's gonna keep going. It's gonna keep pushing towards that direction.
Absolutely, and I think so. The hesitation behind it is exactly why they need to just announce the darn price. Announce a release date, announce the price, let us know how much it's going to cost, let us know when we have to buy it, and show us why it has such a high value for the hardware written on paper. Show us what the hardware can do. Show us why the value is so phenomenal, and why people who look at the hardware, who know hardware, and have their minds explode after reading it, and put it all together as a package and sell it. Let's see, Panda. Let's see. So before I get to you, Paradise, we're just going to read this comment. So multi-platform games go to my social platform where my friends pop on. They'll shoot an invite, and I want to be visible when playing those single-player multiplats. Yeah, that's huge. If all your friends are playing on PC and you can't play on PC because you have a PS5, that's just lonely, you know? I mean, of course you have this...
I mean, really, that's what it comes down to, too, is what you... And it's all personal preference at that point, I think, if you're going to go between all three of them, if you have all three of them. It's what your friends are doing. It's what you want to play, what exclusives you want to play.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm going to have all, like I said earlier, most of us here are going to have all three. And I'm going to be honest, if you guys are always on PC, playing on PC, you're going to see me on Xbox or PS5 only for those, either I just want to play it sitting on the couch because that's the kind of game it is, or it's just a PS5 exclusive, can't play it anywhere else, or... You know, why not play on PC if that's where you guys are all at? Why would I subject myself to a controller instead of mouse and keyboard on a game where we're playing competitively online, even if it is crossplay? You know what I mean? That just, yeah, I think Panda really hit the nail on the head with that, the importance of that. I honestly didn't even think about it, but I always advocate for it, so I'm surprised I didn't. But you're absolutely right, Panda. Where your friends are at is where you should be. But regardless, if you get all consoles, it's a great time to be alive. For any gamer.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's about having fun and just enjoying video games for what they are. They're fun. So, I mean, like, if your friends are on PS5, if you're on, like, absolutely get the PS5, and, like, everything's gonna run great. Like, I don't think we can stress that enough. Yeah. I mean, all this talk, what's better or worse, I mean, all of this is revolutionary at the end of the day.
Especially when you consider the fact that launch titles for new console generations are always the worst looking. Like, if you go back to Xbox, PS4, Xbox 360, PS3, so on and so forth, the launch titles, although good for the time usually, like passable for next gen most of the time, if you compare those first few months to the first few months of releases, or the last year versus the first year, it's always such a huge difference. I mean, PS2 did this in such a great way. Launch titles of PS2 look like garbage. And then towards the PS2's end of life term, I mean, they were still making games for that thing until what, like 2000 and don't quote me on it, but I think like 2010, they were making games for that thing for a way outside its lifespan, at least what you would think. And the games looked as good as can be compared to the first year. That's going to carry over to the new gen consoles as well, especially with so many different features like the variable rate shading, the ray tracing. You have the direct machine learning, you have the geometry engine, you have so many different things that both consoles have that they talk about, but we haven't seen. And maybe we haven't seen it because developers don't know how to utilize it. You know, DankVibez said that earlier. The developers might have to learn, and that's absolutely true. They always have to learn how to use new hardware. Even if the hardware was designed to be easy to use, they still have to learn it. So the launch titles will never be as good as the end of year or end of life launch titles. And as a result of that, you're going to start seeing these games show these features that we barely know about that exist now and use the hardware to a higher degree. And I'm excited, honestly, to see just 2 years from now what games are going to be looking like.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the point I was bringing up the other day when I was just saying, like, the best part about it is there's so many different kinds of gamers out there. There's gamers who like to play and beat the game, like the Cuphead players. There's competitive gamers who love their Riot games and their Blizzards. Mm-hmm. You have the MMO players. I mean, there's all different kinds of genres for every type of gamer out there. Mobile games, anything. It's really on your preference. If you enjoy your exclusives on the PS5, then hell yeah, man. PS5 is the choice.
Right, more power to you. And I'm not going to dog anybody for loving a specific platform and even hating the others. I don't care. Like, if you're happy on your platform and you hate everything else, then more power to you. I just don't believe in console wars. You know, everybody has a reason for buying whatever, and everybody has their preference, and you can't fault anyone for any of that. But I'm with DankVibez. You know, it's going to, you know, price is really going to determine for me, you know, what platforms I'm hanging out with the most, especially at the beginning. Because, you know, if I can get better performance than my computer that I just whipped together, and I'm sure other people feel the same way, then at first I'm just going to do it on what looks best where my friends are at. And if you guys all, you know, my friends are here in the chat with me right now and on this panel, and usually are on this panel who can't be with us today. And if they all are on Xbox, I would love to be on it too. It all is a combination of things. And I'm just going to forward that question to Parody, because Parody, he doesn't have a desktop. He's got a laptop. We talk about it. I want everybody in the chat to keep giving him crap for it until he actually checks out, gets a desktop. He's running Acer Nitro 5.
It's the best computer in the world.
He's gonna be getting that new computer soon. So Parody, what platform? So again, multi-plat game. Excluding the, I mean, you can mention the whole, like, wherever your friends are at, but what if it was a single player title? It was available on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. I know you just got a souped up entertainment area in your basement that you just spent a lot of time and hard work in. You got some nice TVs hanging up on your wall, some brand new ones.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? You gonna go on a computer that you just bought whenever the hell you decide to do that, or are you gonna be on PS5 or Xbox Series X on your brand new TV? What are you doing?
I'm probably gonna. I've been playing Xbox for my whole life. I've been a big Xbox fan. Still new to PC. For me, I think I might just go with the Xbox. I mean, it comes down to, like, depending on price. I'll probably buy the PS5 as well. But if these, like, how this is gonna run now, like the hardware in these Xbox and the PS5, I probably won't even buy a PC, to be honest with you. I'll probably just stick with either of those. I'll occasionally jump on the PC, but for me, I'm definitely an Xbox fan.
Who could blame you for that, though? If they sell it at the prices that we think they're going to sell it as, who could blame you for making that decision? Why would you spend $1,500 on a pre-built 2080 Super PC when you could spend $400 to $500 on the Xbox Series X and get the same amount of performance? It just doesn't make sense not to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be realistic about it, and I mean, you can do your content, and anybody in this chat. I mean, I'm gonna shout these guys and their channels out afterwards, but your content is around creating music in general, but you also make parody music videos of trending songs for video games. And you can do that. You've been doing that with your current computer. So if they release a $400 or $500 Series X with the performance of a $1,400 desktop, then I absolutely would stop giving you crap about not getting a gaming computer too. More about this guy, because he's in every single stream that we do. And if you guys stop by every Thursday, he will be here. But I think this is pretty much everything we've had to say for the night. I'm gonna start wrapping it up. If you guys have anything else to say, feel free to say it now.
Parody, you want to go first?
What do I have to say? Well, you guys skipped me on one question earlier, and I was really upset. I almost cried a little bit. It was about what game I did not want to play.
I've just categorized in my head, like, I gotta remember when this comes out. I gotta look more into this as it gets announced and more information comes out. It definitely was not one of them. That game wasn't even if they released a full gameplay trailer, I'd only watch it to be like, so this is the game, because what you showed us before didn't tell me this.
I mean, like, honestly, out of all the games we've seen from PS5 and Xbox, like, what would be the two worst games that you guys would never want to play? Just
I don't know.
This is like a modified version of the earlier question, just more quantity of hatred.
Yes, exactly. I need to bring a little hate to the chat. Let's do this.
No. I mean, just like it, for whatever trailers they showed, like I said, the medium, As Dusk Falls, just like any game that you really just decided not to flex the actual power of the system it's being sold on, really didn't do anything for me.
Or the gameplay, if you're not going to show the right. Bug Snacks, yes, Bug Snacks. I don't know if Parody or DankVibez have seen Bug Snacks, but
I have seen Bug Snacks.
Yeah, it's.
I've never seen it. What is
Bug
it?
Snacks, like, do yourself a favor, Parody, and after the stream, you go look up Bug Snacks, because that's game of the year right there.
Bug Snacks or Butt Snacks?
They're synonymous. Honestly, that game. Definitely won't be buying that on my PS5, I tell you that much. So, you know what? I'm going to take Panda's answer here. So, for my first one, I'm going to say Bug Snacks.
When I saw that strawberry get up, it was already sold.
And then for my second game, if we're adding one more to the list, and it can't be the one I said earlier, then I'm going to have to go with... Actually, you know what? I'm not going to go with anything else. I'm going to keep myself where I am at now, because even the games I did criticize, I'm only criticizing because presentations thus far are weak, and I don't think game companies think about that ahead of time. So I definitely need to see more before having a final verdict, but it's not a good way for me to be interested in your game if I'm forgetting about it because you showed so little. And so out of context. So I'm not going to say there's any game that I'm like downright like, no, get it away from me. But there are games where my expectations are set low because of what was shown to me. So I guess I'm just going to leave it at that for most everything honestly announced. Even games I'm like, let's go. Like Fable, I was like, let's freaking go.
Can't
I
wait.
don't know what the game, like there's not announced. Like it's a spiritual reboot of the original. It's not a Fable 4. So it could be completely different in certain aspects from all the Fables we played. Like, we don't know yet. So I can't even judge that game on being amazing because although it's most likely going to be, there's no guarantee it is. So, you know, I'm excited for it, but I can't guarantee it's going to be phenomenal. And, you know, so that being said, I'm going to stay unbiased on all games, but I will say they need to step up their game on both companies. They need to show us more, sell it, and I will be happy.
I double that for sure.
Yeah, that's a valid point. I mean, what about Fallout 77 when that comes out?
And the stream is over, and it's come to a close, everybody. We will see ourselves out. No, in all honesty, though, guys, do you have any final points to bring up before we close out?
Other than the fact that I'm just excited to see what it can do. I guess if I were to answer the overwhelming question of where the Xbox Series X versus PS5 versus PC, my answer is going to be all of them because it's just a lot of great stuff coming out, dude. And it's really hard not to be excited about all of it.
That's facts, brother.
This is true.
That's church right there. Well, guys, that's going to be the end of the stream. So next week, we're going to have a different topic. It's either going to be about a game or it's going to be about specific news or rumors, or we'll just discuss more next-gen stuff or current-gen stuff, computer stuff, you name it. It could really be about anything. Hell, if you guys have a topic you want us to talk about that's relative, just comment, send it to us.
Are great.
We're new to this. We're just starting out, and, you know, if engaging with you guys by creating a podcast topic based off of something specific would make you thrilled, then we will love to make you thrilled. But have a great night, everybody. Panda, thank you so much for sticking with us. Thanks for enjoying the stream. You have a great night, man. Much appreciated. I just can't. I love your name. Keep coming by, man. We're going to need you for Parody. Yeah. We're going to need you to keep making...
Come over here.
Honestly, my favorite part about all this is hanging out with everybody, so it's been really fun, and I can't wait to keep going.
It's been an honor.
I'll see everybody.
So we'll see you all next week. Make sure you check out DankVibez and Parody Paradise. Their channels are in the description below. DankVibez is a streamer. He has good vibes during his streams. And Parody Paradise makes parody music for video games off of trending music. So check them out. Feel free to go to their channels. And we will see you guys next Thursday at 7 p.m. Thank you so much for the support and for checking us out. And have a great night. Stay safe.